We are constantly under the influence of whatever passes through our mind in a fleeting moment. From the instant we open our eyes in the morning, an inner dialogue begins, shaping our emotions, behaviors, and decisions throughout the day. At times, this inner voice encourages us, offering guidance and courage, but more often it criticizes, fuels anxiety, and stands in our way. Many people assume that this negative voice is simply part of their character or an unchangeable truth. Yet the way our mind operates has very different origins. The first step to transforming these negative thought patterns is to understand why they exist in the first place. The human brain was shaped in the struggle for survival. For our ancestors, staying alive meant being constantly alert to threats. Ignoring a danger could have cost them their lives. That is why the brain is wired to focus on risks and negativity, treating them as urgent and personal. Today, we no longer run from lions or live in caves, but our brains still operate in the same way. A minor mistake, a small disruption, or even uncertainty can easily be perceived as a major threat. As a result, we often get stuck dwelling on the negative when nothing is truly wrong. A tiny error in a business meeting might occupy our thoughts for days, while the dozens of successful things we did in that same meeting go unnoticed. One critical remark from a friend may echo in our memory, while the many kind and uplifting words they shared before are quickly forgotten. This is the negativity bias of our brain. Yet the effects of this bias are not limited to our emotions. It impacts our entire being. Living in a constant state of worry and fear triggers the release of stress hormones that exhaust the body. Heart palpitations, muscle tension, insomnia, and chronic fatigue often stem from this very cycle. But the good news is that this pattern can be changed. The mind learns through repetition. In other words, the thoughts you nurture are the ones your brain becomes more skilled at producing. If we learn to notice and transform negative thoughts, the brain begins to form new connections, making positive thinking just as natural. Scientists call this ability neuroplasticity. Our minds are flexible, and with the right practices, they can be reshaped. It is important to understand that negative thoughts are not a personal flaw. They are a common tendency shared by all humans. That is why, instead of blaming ourselves, it is far more useful to recognize this pattern. For instance, when anxiety arises, rather than asking, "Why am I like this?" or scolding yourself, you might say, "My brain is choosing the negative right now. That's normal, but I can shift it." This simple awareness marks the beginning of mental freedom. There are practical ways to notice this in daily life. Sometimes a thought appears clearly in words, "I won't succeed," "I'm not good enough." Other times it shows up only through the body, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, a racing heart. In these moments, catching the thought and observing it without identifying with it is extremely valuable. The moment you observe it, you create distance. The thought is no longer you, it is simply a visitor passing through the mind. Let me pause here for a brief note. If you find these insights helpful, please consider subscribing to my channel, liking the video, and sharing your comments. Your support helps this knowledge reach more people. And if you'd like to contribute through YouTube's Super Thanks feature, that would also be a wonderful source of motivation for me. Thank you so much in advance. Now, let's continue. One of the most effective ways to transform negative thoughts is to question them. When a thought arises, ask yourself, is this really true? Do I have solid evidence for it? Does this thought serve me in any useful way? Most of the time, you will see that negative thoughts are nothing more than exaggerations, assumptions, or the echo of a single unpleasant experience from the past. Treating them as absolute truths only limits us further. Another method to break the loop of negativity is through breath and body awareness. Taking a deep breath, holding it for a few seconds, and slowly exhaling interrupts the rapid flow of negative circuits in the brain. noticing tension in your body. Releasing your shoulders, relaxing your muscles creates the same calming effect. Mind and body are in constant communication. When the body relaxes, the mind follows. Perhaps the most crucial step in changing thoughts is to replace them with new perspectives. If you leave the space empty, the old thought quickly returns. For example, instead of "I can't do this," try saying "I am learning step by step." Instead of "Nobody loves me," remind yourself, "I am worthy, and there are people who see my value." The goal here is not to deny reality, but to choose what is constructive. The final step is to reinforce these new thoughts, so they become the default pathways of the mind.
It is not enough to simply say new thoughts out loud. You need to feel them, imagine them, and embody them. Picture yourself giving a successful presentation. Feel the confidence in that moment. Visualize your body language, your tone, your posture. When you combine words with emotions and vivid imagery, your brain records the new thought much faster. Words alone rarely persuade the mind, but when they are infused with feeling and imagination, they create a lasting impact. The goal here is not to eliminate negative thoughts altogether, but to learn how to manage them. Thoughts will continue to arise, but they no longer control you. Instead, you decide which ones to focus on and which ones to let go. That is the essence of mental freedom. The key lesson here is that negative thinking is not a character flaw. It is an evolutionary and biological tendency. Yet, thanks to the brain's ability to change, we have the power to reshape these patterns. With consistent practice, questioning, and adopting new perspectives, the mind can carve out a different path. What matters most is patient repetition, because the thoughts you repeat today will shape the life you live tomorrow. Our relationship with our own mind is one of the most decisive factors in every area of life. The challenges we face are rarely caused solely by the outside world. What truly drains us, holds us back, or stops us from moving forward are often the interpretations our mind attaches to external events. I can't do this. I'll definitely be misunderstood. Everyone will judge me. I'm going to fail again. Thoughts like these kill our motivation before we even take the first step. This is why mental freedom is the foundation of transformation in every area of life. Many people believe that their thoughts are an exact reflection of reality, but in truth, the mind often produces not reality itself, but commentary layered on top of it. For example, imagine a colleague who is unusually quiet during a meeting. Your mind might immediately tell you, "They must be upset with me." In reality, they might simply be tired. But if you believe that first thought and act as though it were true, your behavior changes. You become distant, your tone shifts, tension grows. Eventually, the relationship actually cools down. In this way, a simple thought can turn into a self-fulfilling prophecy. This doesn't just happen in relationships, it appears in every area of life. Someone who wants to advance in their career may freeze when opportunities arise because their inner voice says, "I don't deserve this. I'm not capable enough." The mind works in the same way. When a negative thought arises, we can notice it, choose not to engage with it, and let it go. The most important point here is consistency. Just like muscles, the mind strengthens through repetition. Practicing for a day, a week, or even a month is not enough. Choosing positive thoughts, breathing mindfully, and questioning interpretations must become daily habits. Over time, these repetitions literally change the way the brain functions. Thoughts that once appeared automatically become less frequent. This process requires patience. A mind that has repeated the same patterns for years will not change overnight, but every small step creates momentum. Even if today you only notice and question a handful of thoughts, tomorrow you will be ready to do more. Once the mind begins to learn this path, transformation accelerates. The power of negative thoughts lies in our belief that they are true. When we question them, replace them with new perspectives, and support them with bodily awareness, their power weakens. That is where mental freedom begins. Thoughts no longer rule over you, you rule over them. Opening the doors to mental freedom is not only about recognizing our thoughts, but also about transforming them. Many people believe they cannot change the stream of negative sentences running through their minds. Beliefs like, "This is just who I am," or "My mind is always focused on the worst. There's nothing I can do," often feel deeply rooted. But thoughts are not fixed. We have the power to choose them, reshape them, and give them new meaning. The key is realizing this power and learning to use it consciously. When negative thoughts rush into the mind, most people become their prisoners. The thought is accepted as fact, never questioned, and quickly expands until it dominates the entire mood. But when we create even a small distance between ourselves and the thought, the chain breaks. Simply saying to yourself, "This is just a thought passing through my mind right now," is a powerful step. That single sentence dethrones the thought from absolute truth. It is no longer a command that dictates your life. It is just a passing cloud. This is where awareness comes into play. Awareness is the ability to observe what passes through the mind without judgment. Instead of saying, "This is bad, it must go away immediately," we can reframe it as, "Right now, my mind is producing an anxious scenario." In doing so, we do not fight with the thought, we simply acknowledge it and allow it to pass. Fighting with the mind often makes the thought stronger. The harder we try to suppress it, the more it pushes back. But when we notice and watch it, the thought, like a wave washing onto the shore, eventually recedes. Another way to reduce the power of thoughts is to express them in a different language. For example, if the mind says, "I will definitely fail," you can rephrase it as, "Right now, my mind is considering the possibility of failure." The difference is immediate. The first is an absolute judgment. The second is merely a possibility. When we change our language, we also change the way the mind perceives the world. Words are not just tools for expression. They shape the very patterns of our thinking. Daily life offers endless opportunities to practice this. Imagine someone gives you a sharp look on public transport. Your mind might instantly say, "They must be angry at me." But if you reframe it as, "My mind is interpreting this look negatively," the entire experience changes. In the first case, anger and tension grow. In the second, the emotional impact softens. Seeing thoughts as interpretations rather than absolute truths weakens the power we give them. Breath also plays a vital role in the journey of mental transformation. Breath is the strongest bridge between body and mind. In stressful moments, our breath speeds up without us realizing. By consciously slowing it down, we also slow the speed of our thoughts. Taking a deep breath, holding it for 3 seconds, and releasing it slowly sends a message to the brain. There is no danger. Practicing this a few times throughout the day greatly reduces the influence of negative thoughts. Our body posture also shapes our mental state. When you feel anxious, look at your body. Most likely your shoulders are slumped forward, your head is lowered, and your breath is trapped in your chest. This posture sends signals to the mind that amplify anxiety. Yet when you pull your shoulders back, stand tall, open your chest, and look forward, your brain finds it easier to generate a sense of confidence. What may seem like a small adjustment is actually a powerful tool that unlocks the door to mental freedom. Another method we can use to transform the mind is positive visualization. The brain struggles to distinguish imagination from reality. When we vividly picture a situation, the brain processes it almost as if it were truly happening. That's why imagining positive scenarios prepares the mind for a new reality. For example, if you imagine yourself failing before an important presentation, your anxiety will intensify. But if you rehearse the same presentation in your mind with confidence, your brain records that scenario and your body begins to respond accordingly. This is a technique athletes often rely on. Many Olympians elevate their performance by mentally rehearsing their success over and over again. For visualization to be effective, however, the senses must be engaged. It's not just about creating a mental picture, it's about embodying the emotion of that moment. When you imagine giving a successful speech, see the smiling faces in the audience, hear the sound of applause, and feel the ease in your body. This way, the brain encodes the experience as real. With repetition, the image carves a new pathway in the mind, and fear gradually gives way to confidence. Writing is another powerful way to reshape our thoughts. When we put on paper a sentence that keeps circling in our mind, its hold on us weakens. The thought is no longer just a whisper echoing in our head, it becomes something visible in front of us. Reading it diminishes its grip. And when we cross out negative thoughts on paper, it symbolically sends the message, "I no longer choose you." Such simple rituals can be a strong step toward mental transformation. Patience, however, is essential in this process. A mind that has repeated the same patterns for years does not change overnight. Sometimes we make progress, and sometimes we slip back into old habits. These ups and downs are a natural part of growth. The key is not to give up. Every step backward offers a new chance to learn. Each time we catch a negative thought, we become quicker at recognizing it the next time. Self-compassion is equally crucial on this journey. Many people blame themselves when they think negatively. Why am I like this? Why can't I be stronger? But these accusations only add weight. Instead, saying, "I'm struggling right now, and that's part of being human," makes the process gentler. True transformation happens not through punishment, but through understanding. These methods can be applied across different areas of life: relationships, work, health goals, or personal growth. Recognizing and transforming negative thoughts always opens the same door. For example, when applying for a new job, instead of thinking "I will definitely fail," saying "I can try and learn from the experience," increases your courage to take action. In relationships, replacing "they don't understand me" with "I can express myself more clearly" strengthens communication. In health goals, trading "I'll never lose this weight" for "I can make progress step by step each day" keeps motivation alive. Small shifts often mark the beginning of great transformations. Breaking free from the captivity of negative thoughts is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, because it doesn't just shape today's peace, it also shapes tomorrow's opportunities. Once the mind is liberated, the obstacles blocking our potential fall away. We take bolder steps, build healthier connections, and become more productive. Most importantly, we discover peace within. And this is the truth we must always remember. Thoughts are the seeds that shape our lives. Whatever seeds we plant today are the fruits we will harvest tomorrow. Negative thoughts bear the fruit of fear, anxiety, and regret. Positive and constructive thoughts give rise to courage, hope, and success. The choice is always ours. We decide which thoughts we repeat, which patterns we nurture, and those decisions determine the direction of our lives. Mental transformation is a journey. Small steps taken every day eventually add up to profound change. Even a single negative thought recognized today can open the door to a more peaceful tomorrow. What matters most is taking that first step, because the moment we begin, transformation has already begun. Understanding how the mind works is the foundation for overcoming negative thoughts. Our brain is an organ shaped over thousands of years with one purpose: survival. For our ancestors, noticing danger ahead was often the thin line between life and death. Mistaking the rustle of a bush for a predator may have been a false alarm, but it kept them alive. For this reason, the brain developed a system that is always more sensitive to threats. In modern life, however, this ancient bias has shifted from physical dangers to psychological threats. That is why a small criticism, a trivial mistake, or even uncertainty can trigger a disproportionately strong stress response in the brain. At the root of negative thinking lies this evolutionary tendency. Neuroscientists call it the negativity bias. Research shows that the brain records negative events much faster than positive ones. Among dozens of compliments you may receive in a single day, it is often one harsh remark that dominates your mind. By the end of the day, that single comment can leave you feeling inadequate or like a failure because your brain prioritizes threat in the name of safety. Yet the truth is, these threats are not matters of survival. They are merely products of perception. Stress hormones amplify this process. When a negative thought appears, the body instantly reacts. Cortisol is released. Your heartbeat quickens, and your muscles tense up. The body goes into alarm as if you were facing real danger. Over time, this constant alarm state wears down the body. The immune system weakens, digestion falters, and sleep disturbances arise. In other words, negative thoughts do not only affect your mood, they directly affect your health. In a sense, the poison of the mind seeps into the body. But this picture is not hopeless. The brain has another remarkable quality, flexibility, known as neuroplasticity. This is the brain's ability to change and form new connections throughout life. Even if negative thoughts have been repeated for years, new patterns of thinking can rewire them. The brain also adapts to positive experiences in the same way. And this shift is not only psychological, it happens on a biological level. Positive practices reorganize neural networks and, in effect, reprogram the brain. The first step toward positive thinking is to notice the patterns within the mind. Many people accept negative thoughts without question. I'm a failure. Nothing ever works out for me. These sentences are repeated as if they were absolute truths. Yet they are not truths, only interpretations. Recognizing them is like breaking the first link in a chain. When a thought arises, asking yourself, is this really true? Or is it just my mind playing a trick on me? Marks the beginning of transformation. The second step is replacing negative thoughts with more constructive ones. The key is to use language that feels realistic and believable. Phrases like, I'm amazing, or I do everything perfectly, are easily rejected by the mind because they don't align with lived experience. Instead, saying, I'm getting better every day, or I learn and grow from mistakes, is both credible and motivating. The mind is far more open to accepting these kinds of statements. Reinforcing positive thinking also requires consistent repetition. Just as a muscle strengthens through exercise, the mental muscles of thought grow through practice. You can create a daily routine for this. In the morning, say constructive phrases to yourself in front of the mirror to set the tone for the day. At night, recall the positive moments you experienced, leaving your brain in an uplifting state before sleep. Scientific studies also reveal that practicing gratitude is highly effective in reducing negative thinking. Noticing 3 small things you're grateful for each day shifts your focus from what is lacking to what is present. This lightens the brain's threat perception and allows positive emotions to take center stage. Keeping a gratitude journal is especially powerful. Writing down the things you are thankful for each day trains your brain to recognize and record positive experiences. Social environment also plays a crucial role in mental transformation. Spending time with people who constantly dwell on negativity inevitably influences your own mindset. Minds mirror each other. The language of those around you eventually becomes the inner voice you hear. That's why being with constructive, supportive people directly nourishes mental health. Of course, it isn't possible to remove everyone from your life, but you can choose how much time and energy you give to each relationship. Another powerful way to transform negative thoughts is through action. The mind often feeds on uncertainty. Unfinished tasks, delayed decisions, and avoided responsibilities all increase anxiety. But taking even a small step breaks this cycle. For example, instead of repeating, "I will fail" before a presentation tomorrow, spending 5 minutes reviewing your notes can significantly reduce your anxiety. The mind then records not only the imagined negative scenario, but also a tangible sign of preparation. Exercise is also a vital part of mental transformation. Movement heals not only the body, but the mind as well. Regular walking, yoga, or even simple breathing exercises alter brain chemistry. During physical activity, endorphins and serotonin are released, enhancing feelings of happiness and calm. Movement also quiets the endless stream of thoughts. When the body is active, the mind more easily anchors itself in the present moment. Meditation and mindfulness practices are also powerful tools along this journey. Meditation is not about silencing the mind completely, but about learning to observe its movements. When you close your eyes and focus on your breath, you begin to notice thoughts constantly coming and going. This practice teaches you to create distance from your thoughts. They no longer sweep you away, you become the observer watching them pass. Scientific studies have shown that people who meditate regularly experience structural brain changes. Areas linked to stress shrink, while those related to focus and emotional balance grow stronger. To free ourselves from negative thinking, we must also rewrite our stories. Each of us carries beliefs shaped by past experiences. I'm not good enough. I don't believe in luck because bad things always happen to me. These beliefs often stem from childhood or early life events, yet they can be questioned. The past does not have to dictate the future. When you make a mistake, instead of treating it as a label that defines your entire identity, you can view it as a chance to learn. In doing so, you rewrite your narrative and build a stronger sense of self within your mind. Mental transformation is not only personal but also social. Individuals who think more positively radiate this energy to those around them. In a workplace, just a few people with constructive attitudes can uplift the motivation of an entire team. Within families, a single person who breaks negative patterns can pave the way for children to develop healthier mental frameworks. In other words, transforming the mind benefits not only ourselves, but also our loved ones and society at large. It is also crucial to accept that negative thoughts will never disappear completely. The human mind, by its very nature, produces worries and pessimistic scenarios from time to time. The goal is not to silence them forever, but to break their dominance over us. Recognizing and managing these thoughts when they arise is what sets us free. We are no longer helpless in the face of negativity. We hold the tools to transform it. This new relationship with our mind profoundly reshapes the quality of our lives. It becomes possible to live our days not with anxiety and regret, but with hope and trust. And when we succeed in this, we not only transform ourselves, but also those around us. The light of a peaceful mind illuminates everyone nearby. The battles within a person's inner world are often invisible to others. Outwardly, we may appear calm, go to work, and carry out daily responsibilities. Yet within, repetitive negative sentences can wrap around us like unseen chains. The strongest of these chains is the authority we give to our thoughts. When a thought arises in the mind, we tend to accept it without question. I will fail. No one loves me. I'm not capable of this. These phrases instantly feel like undeniable truths. But in reality, they are merely possibilities generated by the mind. Distinguishing between thought and reality is one of the most important steps toward freedom. When a thought arises, the body responds as well. Anxious scenarios trigger a racing heart, tense muscles, and shallow breathing. This physical reaction makes the thought feel even more convincing, as if the body itself agrees with the story the mind is telling. Thus, a vicious cycle forms. Thought fuels body, and body fuels thought. Breaking this cycle requires examining thoughts objectively. You might ask yourself, what evidence do I really have for this thought? Most of the time, you'll find far less proof than you assumed. When you say, everyone is judging me, you may have simply misinterpreted a few glances. When you think, I'll never succeed, you may be ignoring your many past successes. One of the most effective ways to free the mind is reframing. This technique involves viewing a negative thought from a different perspective. Instead of saying, I made a mistake, therefore I'm a failure, you can say, I made a mistake, and this is a valuable opportunity to learn. The same event, seen through a new frame, becomes empowering rather than defeating. Practicing reframing regularly weakens the mind's habit of generating negativity and strengthens the ability to think constructively. Neuroscience research clearly shows the power of repetition. Every repeated thought forms new connections between neurons. The more often a thought is repeated, the stronger those connections become. That is why constant negative thinking builds mental highways of pessimism. But the same principle applies to constructive thinking. When positive and empowering thoughts are repeated, strong pathways are built in the brain. This flexibility offers us a unique opportunity for transformation. As we change our thoughts, our brain itself changes. One of the most effective ways to break free from negative thinking is to become aware of our mental filters. People often assume they see the world objectively, but in reality, what we perceive is filtered through our beliefs, past experiences, and habits. For instance, someone who grew up constantly criticized may continue to interpret even neutral feedback as criticism in adulthood. Without awareness, we carry these filters with us throughout life. But once we recognize them, we gain the power to change them. An essential part of mental freedom is the dialogue we maintain with ourselves. All day long, there is a stream of inner talk, and its tone is often harsh and judgmental. You failed again. You're falling behind everyone else. You'll never recover. Yet, would we ever say such things to a friend in the same situation? Most likely not. We would offer encouragement, remind them that mistakes are normal, and reassure them of our support. Extending that same compassion to ourselves can ease the mental burden we carry. Negative thoughts, however, often slip unnoticed into our routines. A phrase like, "Today is going to be terrible," arising first thing in the morning, can drain our energy before the day has even begun. This is where morning rituals become powerful. Taking a few deep breaths, repeating a positive affirmation, or writing a short gratitude list can shift our mental tone. Small habits like these can transform the trajectory of an entire day. One of the biggest obstacles to changing negative thoughts is how convincing they appear. The mind presents negative scenarios as if they are already happening. For example, if I'm late for work, everyone will be angry at me, may trigger immediate stress reactions in the body, faster heartbeat, tense muscles, shallow breath, even though nothing has actually occurred. Gaining awareness of this process is the first step to breaking the illusion. Realizing that we drain ourselves by living out events that haven't yet happened is profoundly liberating. Another key practice is training our attention. Attention is like a muscle. It strengthens wherever we direct it. If we continually focus on negativity, the mind becomes skilled at spotting it. But when we deliberately shift our attention toward the positive, the brain forms new pathways. Throughout the day, taking brief moments to notice something uplifting, a flower's scent, the colors of the sky, a child's smile, can recalibrate the mind's focus. These small practices are powerful tools for mental transformation. Writing can also serve as a catalyst for change. Putting negative thoughts onto paper allows us to see them clearly. From there, we can reframe them from a different perspective. For instance, after writing "I will never succeed," we might add, "Yet I have achieved many things in the past. This too will come in time." Writing makes thoughts tangible, which makes them easier to reshape. Learning to transform negative thinking is equally important in social contexts. Often, our interactions with others are shaped by the critical voice inside us. Hesitating to speak up in a meeting, for example, often stems from the thought, "Everyone will judge me." Replacing it with, "My ideas are worth sharing," changes not only how we feel, but also how we act. Each small act of courage reinforces mental freedom, helping the brain form stronger, more empowering connections. Another dimension of liberation lies in building hope for the future. Thoughts about tomorrow are often drenched in worry. What if things go wrong? What if I fail? Yet, the same future can also be imagined with optimism. What if things turn out even better than I hoped? Shifting our mindset toward positive possibilities lifts our present mood and gives us courage to take bolder steps forward. Patience is vital in this process. Thought patterns repeated for years cannot realistically change overnight, but every moment of awareness loosens the chains a little more. A thought that felt overpowering yesterday may lose its grip today, and over time the difference becomes even more significant. Negative thoughts may still appear, but they no longer control us. Instead, we become the ones who notice, guide, and transform them. The beauty of mental freedom lies in the way it permeates every aspect of life. In your work, you become more productive and creative. In relationships, you act with greater patience and understanding. Your health improves because the body is released from chronic stress. You feel more at peace within yourself, and this calm radiates outward. People are naturally drawn to those who carry a steady, reassuring energy. Your inner transformation also strengthens your bonds with others. Ultimately, negative thoughts may always be part of the mind, but they are not our destiny. We can notice them, question them, reframe them, and replace them with constructive alternatives. The brain is flexible enough to adapt to such changes. All we need is persistence. Over time, the dominant voice in the mind will no longer be fear or doubt, but hope and trust. One of the most important milestones on the path to mental freedom is making mindfulness a central part of daily life. Mindfulness is not limited to meditation sessions or sitting in silence with closed eyes focused on the breath. It can be woven into even the simplest tasks of the day. Drinking a glass of water, walking down the street, or preparing a meal can all become moments of mindful awareness. The human mind tends to swing between the past and the future, rehashing yesterday's mistakes or worrying about tomorrow's uncertainties. This is why discovering the power of the present moment is so valuable in breaking free from the chains of negativity. Mindfulness doesn't stop the stream of mental scenarios, but it allows us to observe them from a new distance. Imagine being stuck in traffic on the way to work. Your mind may immediately create negative scenarios. I'll be late for the meeting. Everyone will be upset. My boss will lose respect for me. Yet, if you return to your breath with mindful awareness, you see these thoughts for what they are: mere predictions. In reality, you are still in your car, and the only thing required of you in that moment is to breathe, hold the wheel, and move forward. A mindful moment becomes like a quiet harbor, calming the storm of the mind. Research shows that mindfulness reduces stress, lowers anxiety disorders, and increases overall life satisfaction. It quiets overactivity in the brain regions linked to worry, while strengthening the areas responsible for emotional balance and focus. In other words, regular mindfulness practice reshapes the brain itself. This transformation has far-reaching effects, not only on mood, but also on decision-making, relationships, and even the immune system. At first, learning to live mindfully can feel difficult. The mind, accustomed to years of drifting toward past and future, will continue to wander. But every return to the present is itself a moment of practice. Each time you notice your mind has drifted and gently bring it back to your breath, your body, or the here and now, you strengthen your mental muscles. Just like lifting weights in a gym builds physical strength, every act of noticing builds resilience. Mindfulness becomes especially powerful in moments dominated by negative thoughts. For example, when the phrase, "I am a failure," arises in your mind, instead of trying to silence it, observe it with awareness. You might say to yourself, "My mind is currently producing the thought that I am a failure." This subtle shift reduces the thought's power. It no longer defines your identity. It becomes just a temporary product of the mind. This separation between thought and self is what makes mindfulness so transformative. There are many simple ways to bring mindfulness into daily life. Instead of scrolling on your phone while eating, focus only on the taste of each bite. When walking, listen to the sounds around you. When drinking water, notice the coolness sliding down your throat. In these small moments, the mind cannot drift into the regrets of the past or the anxieties of the future, because the body is fully anchored in the present. The more such moments you cultivate, the weaker the grip of negative thoughts becomes. Alongside mindfulness, another powerful pillar of mental freedom is acceptance. Many people, in trying to free themselves from negative thoughts, end up fighting them. We often tell ourselves, "I shouldn't think this. This is bad." Yet such inner battles only make the thought stronger. Trying to push something out of the mind paradoxically anchors it even more firmly. Instead, the path to freedom lies in acceptance, not in denying the thought's existence, but in observing it without resistance. Acceptance is not the same as surrender. On the contrary, it is the shift from resistance to liberation. When we allow a thought to be present, its power over us begins to fade. Let's take an example. Suppose the thought, "Nobody loves me," keeps repeating in your mind. The more you fight it, the louder it becomes. But if you acknowledge it and say, "My mind is telling me that nobody loves me, but this is just a thought," the burden becomes lighter. This small shift creates space between you and the thought. Acceptance frees the mind from its own trap. Alongside acceptance, self-compassion is a cornerstone of mental freedom. Often, we are our own harshest critics. "You're weak," "You're lazy," "You're not good enough." These words don't always come from others, they arise from within. Such inner criticism only fuels negative thinking. But what if we could treat ourselves with the same kindness we show a dear friend? When a friend makes a mistake, you offer support, not condemnation. You can do the same for yourself, saying, "I'm struggling, but this is a natural part of being human," softens the inner storm. Another powerful tool for cultivating mental freedom is conscious breathing. breath is a bridge. It calms both mind and body at once. When anxiety rises, the breath becomes shallow and rapid. Yet by deliberately slowing the breath, we soothe the brain's alarm system. You can begin with a simple practice. Inhale deeply through your nose, hold for 3 seconds, then exhale slowly. Repeat this cycle for a few minutes and you will feel the mind settle. Breath is like a free and ever-present medicine, always within reach. Movement also plays a vital role in mental transformation. Exercise strengthens not only the body but also the brain, releasing endorphins and serotonin, natural chemicals that lift our mood. Physical activity also quiets the endless stream of thoughts. A walk in nature, for instance, draws attention to the present moment. Over time, regular exercise enhances mental flexibility and reduces the intensity of negative thinking. Equally important are social connections. In isolation, the mind is more prone to fall into negative spirals. Supportive relationships lighten the inner load. Sharing your struggles with a trusted friend makes troubling thoughts less powerful, because once spoken aloud, they lose their grip. Moreover, social support activates the brain's reward system, fostering more positive emotions. Writing is another transformative practice. By recording the negative thoughts that cycle through your mind, you begin to notice repeating patterns. Once visible, these thoughts can be reframed. For example, the phrase, "I will never succeed," can be rewritten as, "I am learning through experience, and every step moves me forward." Putting thoughts into words makes them tangible, reducing their hold over us. Sustaining mental freedom requires patience and persistence. It is not a straight path, but a journey with ups and downs. At times, old patterns may resurface. This is not failure, it is part of the process. What matters is returning, again and again, with awareness, like a child learning to walk, falling and rising repeatedly. We too must continue. Mental transformation is not only a personal gain, but also a collective gift. Free minds are more patient, empathetic, and constructive. They reduce conflict and nurture harmony. One person's inner change ripples outward into families, workplaces, and communities. The result is a healthier, more compassionate society. Ultimately, mental freedom is not something foreign. It is a capacity already within us, though often forgotten. Negative thoughts will always be part of life, but we need not become their prisoners. Through awareness, acceptance, compassion, breath, movement, connection, and writing, we can liberate the mind. Patience and continuity are our greatest companions on this path. As we free the mind, we discover more peace, hope, and courage in every corner of life. The inner struggle of a human being is often invisible, yet it colors every aspect of existence. The mind swings between the regrets of the past and the fears of the future, losing touch with the only reality we truly possess, the present moment. Life exists only here and now. The past is an unreachable memory, the future, an unshaped possibility. To live fully is to live in this moment. The human mind constantly oscillates between the past and the future. This is why one of the most crucial steps on the journey to mental freedom is learning to root yourself in the present moment. Awareness of the now diminishes the power of negative thoughts, because much of our inner turmoil is fueled either by the past or by the future. Thoughts like, "I shouldn't have made that mistake," belong to the past, while worries such as, "What if things go wrong?" arise from concerns about the future. Yet the simple fact that you are breathing, seeing, hearing, and feeling your heartbeat, these are miracles occurring in the present. Recognizing them acts as a potent medicine for clearing the mind of negativity. Remaining in the present is not always easy. Our minds have spent years forming habitual patterns. While scrolling through a phone, the mind may drift to a past argument. Walking down the street, it may worry about an upcoming task. Noticing these shifts is, in fact, the essence of transformation, because each moment of recognition offers a chance to call the mind back to the now. Our mental muscles grow stronger through these repeated acts of awareness. A simple way to anchor in the present is to focus on the senses. What do you see right now? What sounds are you hearing? How does the air feel on your skin? These questions immediately bring the mind to the present. When thoughts attempt to drag you into the past or future, your senses draw the body, and thus the mind back to now. Mindful walking is a powerful practice in this regard. Instead of trying to silence the inner chatter while walking, focus on each step. Notice your feet touching the ground, the rhythm of your stride, the movement in your muscles. With every step, silently affirm, "I am here." This simple practice, when done consistently, significantly reduces the power of intrusive thoughts. Rooting yourself in the present not only fosters personal peace, but also transforms your relationships. Often, during conversations, our minds are busy crafting responses rather than truly listening. We miss the nuances of speech, tone, body language, and emotion, creating a disconnect in communication. But when we listen with full attention, we understand more deeply, and interactions become richer and more meaningful. Another effective method for managing negative thoughts is labeling them. When "I am a failure" arises, identify it as a judgment. When "what if things go wrong" appears, label it as anxiety. Labeling separates the thought from your identity. You are not your thoughts. They are simply products of your mind. This awareness diminishes their grip. Humor is yet another powerful tool. The mind often exaggerates scenarios. If I make a mistake, everyone will laugh, and my life will be ruined. Recognizing these scenarios as highly unlikely, and even smiling at them, reduces their seriousness. Humor breaks the authority that thoughts can impose over us. Engaging with nature also magnifies the power of the present moment. Touching the trunk of a tree, listening to birdsong, or watching the waves of the sea instantly calms the mind. Nature is one of humanity's oldest teachers, because it lives perpetually in the now. A flower does not dwell on past rains or worry about future sunshine. It simply exists. By connecting with nature, we notice the reduction of unnecessary mental noise. Examining our habits is another key aspect of countering negative thinking. The mind is shaped by what we feed it. If we spend most of the day immersed in negative news or social media, our minds adapt accordingly. Conversely, when we engage with constructive content, the mind begins to develop positive patterns. Reading a book, listening to inspiring talks, or appreciating art are forms of mental nourishment. The content we consume directly impacts our mental well-being. Small daily rituals also help cleanse the mind. Beginning the morning with a brief gratitude list shifts focus from what is lacking to what is present. Recording 3 small accomplishments at the end of the day reduces feelings of failure. Over time, these small habits redirect the mind's attention, allowing constructive thought patterns to dominate over negativity. Finally, cultivating hope for the future is a vital element of mental freedom. The mind tends to dwell on, "What if it doesn't work out?" which fuels anxiety. Yet we can choose to ask, "What if it turns out even better than I hoped?" This simple shift redirects the mind, and hope acts as a powerful antidote to negative thinking. Looking to the future with optimism improves our current mood and lays the foundation for bolder steps ahead. Maintaining hope can also be reinforced by recalling past successes. as the mind often forgets its achievements when mired in negativity. Every person has moments in life where, despite challenges, they have overcome difficulties. Remembering these moments sends a powerful message to the mind. I did it before, I can do it again. This reminder strengthens our sense of confidence about the future. One of the most important steps on the journey of mental transformation is to stop comparing ourselves to others. Comparison is one of the greatest sources of negative thinking. Measuring our lives against the curated realities we see on social media fosters a constant sense of inadequacy. Yet, everyone's journey is unique, and another person's story cannot be our benchmark. Focusing on our own small steps is the key to inner peace. Mental freedom is not only an individual pursuit, but also a societal responsibility. People who have liberated their minds tend to be more constructive, patient, and understanding. This, in turn, fosters healthier communication and more harmonious relationships within society. A single person's inner peace can ripple outward, creating a calmer family, a more cooperative workplace, and a more balanced community. Thus, mental freedom is not merely a personal gain, but a social value as well. Negative thoughts are a natural part of the human mind, but they do not have to control our lives. Rooting ourselves in the present, practicing mindfulness, labeling thoughts, observing them with humor, connecting with nature, feeding the mind with positive content, and nurturing hope for the future are powerful steps toward mental freedom. As we take these steps, the chains of the mind loosen, and life becomes lighter and more peaceful. One of the most critical obstacles in transforming the mind is ingrained negative thought patterns. The mind records every repeated thought as a pathway. The more a thought recurs, the stronger its imprint in the brain, forming permanent neural pathways like trails carved through a forest. This is why feelings of anxiety, hopelessness, or inadequacy often become automatic responses, and why some people immediately assume the worst in any situation. Yet the same mechanism can be harnessed for transformation. Thanks to the brain's plasticity, new pathways can be created. By consistently repeating constructive thoughts, we can gradually weaken the old negative trails. A mind, once dominated by negativity, can, over time, become filled with empowering, constructive patterns. The key is to approach this process consciously and persistently. The first step in transforming negative thought patterns is becoming aware of them. Often, we live unaware of the sentences running through our minds. Thoughts like, "I am not enough," or "no one understands me," loop so frequently that we accept them without question. Awareness gives us the power to change them. When you notice a thought, ask yourself, does this serve me, or does it limit me? This simple question can open the mind to a new path. Another technique is reframing negative thoughts. For example, instead of saying, "I failed at this task," you might say, "This experience is teaching me how to do better next time." The difference between these statements is not just in the words they guide the mind toward a different belief about the future. The first labels your identity, while the second supports your growth. The more you practice reframing, the more constructive your perspective becomes. Attention training is also crucial when dealing with habitual negative thoughts. The mind grows in the direction of our focus. If we constantly focus on mistakes, deficiencies, or threats, the brain strengthens in those areas. However, when we intentionally direct our attention to successes, strengths, and small achievements, the mind's center of gravity shifts. Even brief moments of conscious focus can make a difference. Noticing a friend's smile, appreciating the beauty of the sky, or acknowledging a small personal accomplishment all redirect attention toward positivity. The power of writing is unparalleled in mental transformation. Recording negative thoughts throughout the day allows you to recognize recurring patterns. Later, reviewing them shows which thoughts are grounded in reality and which are merely products of anxiety. Most of these thoughts are baseless. You can then rewrite them in a more constructive form. For instance, beneath "I can't do this," you might write, "Through practice, I will learn and improve." Writing makes thoughts tangible, reducing their hold over you. Finally, the power of repetition should never be underestimated. Simply stating a positive thought once is often not enough, as long years of repeated negativity have left strong neural imprints. Consistent repetition is required for new thoughts to take root. Daily affirmation practices are a practical way to reinforce these new neural pathways and steadily transform the mind. Starting your day by looking in the mirror and saying, "I am making progress every day," sends a constructive message to your mind. Before going to bed, recalling 3 small achievements from your day helps train your brain to focus on the positive. We can also harness the power of the body to break ingrained negative thought patterns, as body and mind constantly influence each other. When we feel anxious, our shoulders slump and our breathing becomes shallow. Yet by consciously adjusting the body, the mind follows. Standing tall, taking deep breaths, and lifting your gaze forward sends signals of confidence to your brain. These small actions are powerful steps toward mental freedom. The social environment also plays a crucial role in mental transformation. Being in spaces where negative thoughts are constantly expressed can pull your own mind into the same patterns. Conversely, spending time with supportive, constructive, and hopeful individuals strengthens mental well-being. While it is not always possible to remove every person from your life, you can choose who and how much time you spend with. Surrounding yourself with uplifting environments makes it easier to break negative thought cycles. Another essential element is cultivating hope for the future. Negative thoughts often operate through the "what if it fails" question, fueling anxiety and fear. However, it is equally possible to ask your mind, "What if things turn out even better than I imagined?" This simple shift of perspective directs the mind toward positivity. Hope is the antidote to negative thinking, improving your current emotional state while preparing you for courageous steps ahead. Keeping hope alive can be as simple as recalling past successes. When caught in negative thought patterns, we tend to forget the obstacles we have already overcome. Yet every person has experienced moments where they achieved what once seemed impossible. Remembering these moments sends a strong message to the mind. I succeeded before, I can do it again. This reminder strengthens our confidence in the future. Breaking habitual negative thoughts can also be supported by taking small, manageable steps. The mind fears sudden, drastic change, and the idea of "I must change everything at once" often increases anxiety. Small, deliberate actions convince the mind gradually. Just 5 minutes of breathing exercises, a short walk, or repeating a single positive affirmation each day can create significant long-term change. The power of small steps allows the brain's adaptation process to unfold naturally. Patience is essential for lasting mental transformation. A mind that has worked through the same patterns for years does not change overnight. There will be days when you feel progress and days when old habits resurface. These ups and downs are a natural part of the process. The key is to keep going. Each moment of awareness loosens the grip of old chains. Over time, negative thoughts may still arise, but they will no longer control you. You become the observer, the manager, and the transformer of your mind. In conclusion, Habitual negative thoughts may leave deep imprints in the mind, but they are not destiny. Thanks to the brain's plasticity, new pathways can be created. Awareness, reframing, attention training, journaling, consistent repetition, engaging the body, surrounding yourself with supportive social circles, and nurturing hope for the future are among the most powerful steps in this journey. When practiced consistently, these steps help the mind release habitual negative thinking and develop a more constructive, hopeful perspective. This is the essence of true mental freedom. One of the greatest traps hidden deep within the human mind is the cycle of repetitive worry. At first glance, worry may seem useful. It can motivate preparation. A student who thinks, "What if I fail the exam?" may study more diligently. An employee who fears losing their job may explore new opportunities. However, when worry becomes chronic, it transforms into a poison that drains mental energy, exhausts the body, and weakens the spirit. Instead of producing solutions, the mind becomes a recording device, endlessly replaying the same anxious thoughts. At the root of worry lies the desire for control. The human mind wants to know and manage everything in advance, yet life is inherently uncertain. We can never know the future with absolute certainty. This very uncertainty prompts the mind to generate anxiety. The brain fills the unknown with negative scenarios, a mechanism that historically supported survival by predicting threats. In today's world, however, this mechanism often becomes a mental prison rather than protection from predators. When practiced consistently, these steps help the mind release habitual negative thinking and develop a more constructive, hopeful perspective. This is the essence of true mental freedom. One of the greatest traps hidden deep within the human mind is the cycle of repetitive worry. At first glance, worry may seem useful. It can motivate preparation. A student who thinks, "What if I fail the exam?" may study more diligently. An employee who fears losing their job may explore new opportunities. However, when worry becomes chronic, it transforms into a poison that drains mental energy, exhausts the body, and weakens the spirit. Instead of producing solutions, the mind becomes a recording device, endlessly replaying the same anxious thoughts. At the root of worry lies the desire for control. The human mind wants to know and manage everything in advance. Yet life is inherently uncertain. We can never know the future with absolute certainty. This very uncertainty prompts the mind to generate anxiety. The brain fills the unknown with negative scenarios, a mechanism that historically supported survival by predicting threats. In today's world, however, this mechanism often becomes a mental prison rather than protection from predators. The effects of chronic worry on the body are undeniable. Anxiety triggers a constant state of alert. The heart races, muscles tense, digestion slows, and sleep is disrupted. Short-term anxiety can be helpful, even life-saving in moments of real danger. But prolonged worry gradually wears down the body, weakening the immune system, reducing focus, and increasing fatigue. In other words, mental anxiety can make the body sick. The path to mental freedom involves learning to accept uncertainty. Acceptance is not passive surrender, it is a form of strength. By embracing uncertainty, the mind stops filling every gap with negative scenarios. Choosing the thought, "I am doing what I can right now," instead of "what if things go wrong," alleviates anxiety. One practical method to manage worry is to allocate it a limited time. Set aside 10 or 15 minutes each day to allow your mind to express concerns. During this time, write down every anxious thought that arises. Once the time is up, put the pen down and return to your daily activities. This practice teaches the mind that worry has limits. The thoughts may not disappear completely, but they no longer dominate your entire day. Another effective strategy is reframing anxious thoughts. Change "what if I fail" to "what if I succeed," or "what if no one understands me," to "what if some people do understand and support me." A subtle shift in words can profoundly transform mental perception. Worry often comes with a tendency to catastrophize. A minor mistake at work can spiral into, "They will fire me. I'll never find another job. My life is ruined." In reality, it is just a small, fixable error. To counteract this, ask yourself, how likely is this scenario to actually happen? Most of the time, the chances of catastrophic outcomes are very low. Returning to the present moment is another powerful antidote to anxiety. Worry is always future-focused. It thrives on "what if tomorrow?" or "what if in the future?" But if you are breathing in the present and there is no immediate danger, anxiety is simply a shadow created by your mind. Focusing on your breath, observing your surroundings, and tuning into bodily sensations anchors you in the present and reduces the grip of worry. Action is also a key strategy. Since the mind feeds on uncertainty, inaction amplifies anxiety. Taking even a small step diminishes it. For example, if you feel anxious about an exam and keep thinking, "what if I fail?" Spending 5 minutes reviewing a lesson can calm your mind. You are no longer just generating worry, you are taking action. Action is the antidote to anxiety. Worry grows strongest in isolation. Sharing your concerns with a trusted friend, family member, or confidant diminishes their intensity. An outside perspective balances the mind's exaggerations. Social support is therefore a powerful tool in breaking worry cycles. Compassion also plays a vital role on the path to mental freedom. Many people blame themselves when they feel anxious. "Why are you so fearful? Why are you so weak?" Self-blame intensifies anxiety. Instead, practice self-compassion. "I am experiencing worry right now, and this is a natural part of being human." This simple acknowledgement lightens your burden and strengthens mental resilience. Writing is another effective method for interrupting worry. Putting your anxieties on paper reduces their perceived magnitude. Repeating a thought endlessly in your mind is different from seeing it in writing. Writing concretizes worry and makes it easier to manage, while also engaging your mind in a different task, breaking the cycle of repetitive anxiety. Recognizing this can redirect the course of anxiety. In essence, worry cycles are a natural tendency of the human mind, but they do not have to dictate our lives. Strategies such as acceptance, setting time limits, reframing thoughts, questioning catastrophizing, returning to the present moment, taking action, sharing concerns, practicing self-compassion, and writing are powerful tools to break these cycles. When applied consistently, these practices help your mind shed the chains of anxiety and cultivate a freer, more hopeful state. True freedom comes from noticing the negative scenarios our mind produces and choosing not to become their prisoner. Anxiety may visit at any time, but it becomes a passing guest rather than a master, and we remember that we are the true owners of our inner world. Understanding and transforming the mind is essential not only for personal peace, but also for living a productive and meaningful life in all areas. The mind is like a garden. Whatever seeds we plant today will determine the fruits we harvest tomorrow. If we sow seeds of worry, fear, anger, and regret, the garden becomes overrun with weeds. But when we plant seeds of hope, compassion, courage, and trust, the same mind flourishes into a lush forest. This is the essence of mental freedom, consciously deciding which thoughts to nourish. However, the path to mental freedom is not a straight line. People naturally revert to old thought patterns. Long-held negative beliefs can resurface at the most unexpected moments. In moments of failure, the thought, "I am not enough," may rush in. After rejection, "No one loves me," may return. These regressions are part of the process. What matters is that when we recognize these thoughts, we don't surrender to them, but instead recall and apply the methods we have previously learned. One of the greatest strengths on the journey to mental freedom is repeated mindfulness. Recognizing a thought once is not enough. Mindfulness must be recalled over and over again. It is like a mental muscle. Just as physical muscles do not strengthen without regular exercise, mental awareness develops through repetition. Even a few minutes each day spent focusing on the breath, observing thoughts, or practicing self-compassion strengthens this mental muscle. Mental transformation is not only an internal journey for the individual, it also transforms the relationships we build with those around us. By cultivating awareness, compassion, and constructive thinking, our interactions become more meaningful and harmonious. Mental freedom, therefore, extends beyond personal peace. It radiates outward, influencing the world we inhabit. The human mind does not exist in isolation. It is shaped through social connections. A child who grows up constantly criticized within a family is likely to internalize self-criticism as an adult. Similarly, in a society dominated by fear and threats, individuals' minds are steeped in anxiety. Therefore, mental freedom is not only an individual pursuit, but also a social responsibility. More constructive, hopeful, and compassionate individuals naturally radiate this energy to those around them. One of the foundational pillars of mental freedom is self-awareness. Self-awareness is not limited to observing our thoughts. It also involves recognizing our emotions and behaviors. Often, people live without fully noticing their feelings. They may not understand why they feel anger or the source of their anxiety. Self-awareness allows us to trace the origins of these emotions. Asking yourself, "What am I feeling right now, and why?" is the first step toward transforming automatic reactions. Emotions are among the most important guides to mental freedom because each feeling carries a message. Anger signals that our boundaries have been crossed. Anxiety indicates the need to prepare for uncertainty. Sadness reflects the value we place on what we have lost. Suppressing or ignoring emotions only intensifies them later, but understanding them transforms their impact. Another dimension of mental freedom is living in alignment with our values. Many people shape their lives according to external expectations, family, society, or peers, rather than their own inner compass. True freedom comes from recognizing your values and making decisions guided by them. Values act like a compass, helping you choose your path. If a choice leaves you feeling uneasy, it likely conflicts with your values. Conversely, a decision that brings genuine satisfaction aligns with your values. Knowing your values provides clarity in decision-making and reduces the influence of negative thoughts. The body also plays a crucial role in the journey toward mental freedom, as mind and body constantly influence one another. Anxiety often manifests as physical tension, but relaxing the body can calm the mind. Regular exercise, proper nutrition, and sufficient sleep form the foundation of mental health. A fatigued body is more susceptible to negative thinking, while a well-rested body enhances mental resilience. In particular, sleep is indispensable for maintaining mental freedom. A sleep-deprived mind is far more susceptible to negative thoughts, because the brain's regions responsible for emotional balance have not had sufficient rest. Research shows that individuals who maintain regular sleep patterns experience lower anxiety levels and possess greater focus and problem-solving abilities. Therefore, preserving a healthy sleep routine is a vital component of mental freedom. The journey toward mental freedom is not always walked alone. Seeking professional support through therapy, coaching, or counseling is an important part of this process. External guidance allows us to recognize mental patterns we may overlook ourselves. Talking with a therapist can reveal hidden cycles in our thinking and offer new perspectives. This is not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it demonstrates strength, as seeking support reflects the value we place on ourselves. Creativity is another crucial dimension of mental freedom. Creativity is not limited to artistic endeavors, it is the willingness to explore new paths in everyday life. Trying a new recipe, practicing a different sport, or taking a new route to work stimulates the mind and loosens ingrained negative patterns. Creativity becomes a playground for mental freedom. Experimenting with new experiences helps break cognitive chains. Humor also plays a powerful role in transforming negative thoughts. The mind often constructs exaggerated scenarios, and approaching these with humor reduces their intensity. Laughing at our mistakes is not self-deprecation. It is a way to lighten the mind's exaggerations. Humor is a sign of mental flexibility, and seeing the amusing side of situations diminishes their grip on us. One of the greatest rewards of mental freedom is inner peace. Inner peace is not the absence of noise in the external world, but the calm within one's own mind. Even amidst external chaos, it is possible to cultivate a sense of serenity. This calm arises from recognizing that negative thoughts are temporary. When the mind does not identify with these thoughts and allows them to pass, peace emerges naturally. Ultimately, mental freedom is not a destination, but an ongoing journey. Along this path, we may stumble or take steps backward. The key lies in consistently rising again, noticing, and trying anew. This is the essence of true freedom. As we transform our minds, every aspect of our lives changes. A more peaceful, courageous, and compassionate life becomes attainable. True freedom originates not from external circumstances, but from the depths of the mind, and only then does one become the true master of their inner world. Mental freedom begins with recognizing the roots that have taken hold in our minds over the years, transforming some of them, and planting new, healthier patterns in their place. Many people at some point in life become aware of the weight of their past. Words of criticism or belittlement heard during childhood can resurface in adulthood as a fear of failure. Experiences of rejection in youth can manifest later as difficulties in trusting close relationships. At this stage, one of the most powerful tools of mental freedom is the ability to look at the past with awareness. While we cannot change what has already happened, we can transform the influence it has over us. This begins with the conscious realization, I am no longer in that time. I will not allow these thoughts to control me anymore. One of the foundational pillars of mental freedom is self-forgiveness. People often find it harder to forgive themselves than others. Regretful thoughts such as, why did I make that mistake? Or I should have taken that opportunity weigh heavily on the mind. Mistakes, however, are an inseparable part of being human. They teach us, strengthen us, and guide our growth. Forgiving oneself does not mean approving of past actions. It means learning from them and moving forward with greater awareness. This is where self-compassion comes in. Self-compassion is treating yourself as you would treat a close friend. When a friend makes a mistake, you offer support rather than harsh judgment. Yet, when we err, we often fill our minds with the harshest criticism. I am incapable. worthless, I can't succeed at anything. Self-compassion softens this inner voice, saying, yes, I made a mistake, but it is part of being human. I can learn from it, and move forward opens the doors to mental freedom. The power of habits is also critical in the journey of mental transformation, as our thoughts largely stem from daily routines. Checking your phone immediately upon waking can trigger mental distraction for the entire day. Consuming a constant stream of negative news feeds pessimism. On the other hand, simple morning routines like a brief breathing exercise, journaling a few lines, or thinking of 3 things to be grateful for can completely shift your mental tone. Small habits create profound, long-term transformations. Patience is essential in cultivating mental freedom. Just as mental patterns are not formed overnight, they do not change overnight either. The mind learns through repetition. The more frequently a thought is reinforced, the stronger its neural pathways become. Transforming negative thoughts requires repeatedly practicing positive alternatives. Initially, these positive thoughts may feel forced, but over time they become natural, much like learning a new language, requiring patience and consistency. Focusing on the present moment is another critical step in mental freedom. The human mind often lingers in the past or produces worries about the future. Regret and anxiety fill these spaces, yet real life exists only in the now. Your breath happens now. Your heart beats now. Your loved ones are with you now. Concentrating on the present is one of the most effective ways to achieve mental freedom. Simple exercises, spending a few minutes focusing solely on your breath, listening attentively to the sounds around you, or savoring a bite of food mindfully can bring your mind firmly into the present. The societal dimension of mental freedom is equally important. We carry not only our own mental patterns, but also those imposed by society. Expectations like, you must pursue this career, marry by a certain age, or look a specific way create internal pressure and often trigger negative thoughts. Mental freedom begins with questioning these patterns. Do I truly want this, or am I living according to others' expectations? These questions are key to breaking mental chains. Social environment also plays a vital role in this journey. Being surrounded by constantly complaining or pessimistic people can pull your mental energy downward. Conversely, spending time with hopeful, solution-oriented, and supportive individuals elevates your mental state. Pay attention to the language used by those around you. The words they speak subtly shape your own thinking. Mental freedom, therefore, is not only an individual effort, but also involves consciously choosing the right social environment. Writing is another essential tool for mental transformation. Putting thoughts on paper lightens the mind. Thoughts that swirl chaotically in your head often appear clearer and more manageable when written down. Journaling provides structure to mental clutter and creates space for reflection, awareness, and conscious choice. Writing organizes thoughts and brings inner relief. Especially when we put negative thoughts on paper, their power diminishes. The mind can view written thoughts more objectively, creating distance and clarity. The path to mental freedom also demands patience and self-discipline. Humans often desire quick results after a few days of thinking positively. One may feel disappointed, wondering, why haven't I changed yet? But mental patterns are the product of years, so transformation naturally unfolds over time. Trusting the process is crucial. Daily small steps can accumulate into profound transformation over a year. The most beautiful reward of mental freedom is the ability to experience life more fully. Negative thoughts drain energy, scatter attention, and prevent us from noticing life's beauty. When mental chains are broken, one feels as light as a bird. The colors of the sky appear more vivid. Words from loved ones are heard more attentively. Small moments are cherished more deeply. Life, when paired with mental freedom, is reborn. Therefore, mental freedom is not merely a goal, but a lifelong journey each day, offering a bit more awareness, a bit more compassion, and a bit more courage. When these steps unite, a person becomes the true master of their inner world. Reaching the threshold of mental freedom is not the end of a path, but the beginning of a new chapter. A liberated mind transforms your entire perspective on life. The one weighed down by past chains and future fears is no longer you. Instead emerges a self who lives in the present, manages thoughts, recognizes emotions, and acts in alignment with personal values. This self focuses on what can be gained from now onward, rather than what has been lost. A free mind frees you from being a prisoner of your own thoughts. The greatest prison is constructed within the mind, with no iron bars, only repeated negative beliefs, fears, and doubts. One day, you realize these bars are merely a thin veil of mist. When touched, they dissipate. This awareness marks the beginning of freedom. True power lies not in fighting thoughts, but in recognizing and managing them. Negative thoughts may still arise, but you are no longer enslaved by them. When anxiety appears, you notice it and understand its origin. When fear rises, you observe it without letting it control you. When anger swells, you perceive its message. Instead of fighting emotions, you cooperate with them, receiving their insights and allowing them to pass. A liberated mind also frees the heart. Negative thoughts enslave both mind and heart. Anxiety makes love difficult, anger blocks connection, and regret prevents trusting the future. When thoughts are free, the heart opens. One can love, connect, and trust again, becoming more compassionate, patient, and understanding. This promotes healthier relationships with oneself and others. One of the greatest fruits of mental freedom is courage. Negative thoughts generate fear, often preventing action. I will fail. They will reject me. I will make a mistake. These thoughts stifle courage. But with mental freedom, such sentences lose their power. One learns to look beyond fear. Courage is not the absence of fear, but moving forward despite it. A liberated mind instills this courage. A free mind also unlocks productivity. Negative thoughts consume mental energy. If a person repeatedly tells themselves, "I can't," tens of thousands of times a day, little energy remains for creative action. When these thoughts are silenced or transformed, mental energy is freed. Creativity, productivity, and innovation flourish. A person gains the mental space to pursue their dreams. Mental freedom, therefore, brings not only peace, but also success. Another gift of mental freedom is health, because mind and body are inseparable. Negative thoughts keep the body under stress, accelerating heart rate, weakening the immune system, tensing muscles, and disrupting sleep. When thoughts are transformed, the body relaxes, the heart beats steadily, breathing deepens, muscles release tension, and sleep improves. Mental freedom is thus a cornerstone of physical health. Time is also regained with mental freedom. Negative thoughts steal hours. Anxiety can consume entire afternoons. Ruminating on regret wastes days. A liberated mind returns this time. You learn to savor the present, value moments with loved ones, and appreciate life's small pleasures. Life becomes more meaningful. Mental freedom also allows you to see life as a whole. Negative thinking fragments perception, focusing only on failures or shortcomings. A free mind sees life in its entirety, acknowledging joys, successes, and small miracles. This broader perspective lightens life's burdens. Finally, gratitude emerges as one of the most powerful traits of a liberated mind. By freeing your thoughts, you open the door to appreciation, joy, and presence, allowing life to be experienced fully. When a person lives dominated by negative thoughts, they often fail to see what they already have. Their attention is constantly drawn to what is missing. Mental freedom, however, teaches us to appreciate what is present. Waking up in the morning, taking a breath, walking, hearing the voices of loved ones, watching the sunrise, each of these is a gift. Gratitude naturally flows from a liberated mind, and this sense of appreciation nourishes true happiness. A mind that has achieved freedom also inspires others. Mental freedom is not merely an individual gain, it radiates outward. When you are more peaceful, those around you feel peace. When you are courageous, you instill courage in others. When you are compassionate, you teach others compassion. In this way, mental freedom spreads like ripples in a pond. The transformation of one individual contributes to the transformation of the wider community. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the journey toward mental freedom is this: happiness begins within the mind, not in external circumstances. People often search for happiness outside themselves. More money, a better job, a bigger house, more recognition. Yet, even if all of these are achieved, true happiness remains elusive if the mind is filled with negative thoughts. Genuine happiness is only possible through mental freedom, because a liberated mind learns to find peace under any circumstances. Mental freedom should be experienced not as a final destination, but as a continuous journey. On this journey, falling, stumbling, or retreating is natural. What matters is standing up again, trying again, and learning again. Every day, a little more awareness, a little more patience, and a little more compassion brings progress. Each step makes you stronger, more peaceful, and freer. At the culmination of this journey, remember this: mental freedom is not a miraculous achievement to be gained overnight. It is a way of life built through countless small choices made each day. Today, noticing a negative thought. Tomorrow, transforming a lingering fear. The next day, shifting a regret. These small steps accumulate into profound liberation. Negative influences no longer have to control you. Thoughts that arise are like passing clouds, while you remain the sky. Clouds come and go, but the sky is always there. Mental freedom is remembering that vast open sky. You are greater than any single thought, and in this journey you are not reaching an end but stepping into the continuity of a new beginning. You are now the master of your own mind. Your thoughts serve you, they are not your masters. With this awareness, you can move through life more boldly, peacefully, and meaningfully. True freedom begins in the mind, and you hold the key to that freedom.